All right, so here are the solutions to the quiz. There were two versions of the quiz being written. I have the two versions up here. I'm going to start off with the version on the left. You're given the general term of an arithmetic sequence is t sub n equals 4 plus 3n. What is the common difference and what is the value of the 12th term? This first pair of questions, 1a and b, are pretty much gimme questions. You need to understand that you can use that formula to create a table of values that show the relationship between n and tn. N, of course, is the term number. T sub n, of course, is the value of the term, or what we sometimes just call the term. So if I put 1 in for n, I get 4 plus 3 times 1. I can work out what that is. That's 7. If I were to put 2 in for n, I would have 4 plus 3 times 2. And I can certainly work out what that is, and that's 10. On the bottom of the screen here, that's just my rough work. I'm not going to leave it up here. Once you've found the first and the second term, you can establish that there's a common difference of 3, because to go from 7 to 10, you add 3, which means the next term is 13, and then 16, etc. So the common difference, the answer to A, is 3. What is the value of T12? Well, that has nothing really to do with the table directly. I suppose you could extend the table if you wanted to, or you could just take the general formula and say T sub 12 is 4 plus 3 times 12. That's 4 plus 36. So T sub 12 has a value of 40, and that's the answer to part B. I'm not going to go through all of the explanation for the second version of the exam, but essentially if you use a table of values, along with the general term equation, you're going to discover that the first term will have a value of 7, the second term will have a value of 11, the third term will have a value of 15, and on it goes. Looking at that, you can establish that the common difference is 4. Incidentally, many of you have picked up on the fact that the common difference is going to be the number in front of n in the general term, as long as it's written in the forms that are written on your quiz. So this 4 is the coefficient of the n. What is the value of T12? Well, again, you're going to put 12 in for n. And when you work that out, you get T12 equals 48 plus 3 is 51. So that's question 1. Question 2, I'm going to go through a detailed explanation for the version that's on the right-hand side of the screen this time. If you're asked how many terms are in the sequence, once again, this table proves to be invaluable, because when I put n here and I say, well, n is the first term, second term, third term, these numbers, I just misspoke. N is not the first term, second term, third term. N is 1 or 2 or 3, etc. The first term would be whatever's in this column. The second term would be in this column. But what we have is the final term. We can put 11 here, we can put 8 there, we can put 5 here. But we know that the last term has a value of negative 280. And what this problem boils down to is that if you can determine the value of n that produces negative 280, then you will determine which term 280 is. And if you know which term it is, you know how many terms there are. The parameters defining this sequence are T1 is 11 and D equals negative 3. You should have no problem determining that from the sequence that's given to you. You're going to load those into T sub n equals T sub 1 plus n minus 1 times D. let's see what we get. T sub n equals 11 plus n minus 1 times d, which is negative 3. As we've done in class, man, I bet you over a dozen times already, you need to multiply that negative 3 by the n and the negative 1. So we get T sub n equals 11 minus 3n plus 3, and that means T sub n equals 14 minus 3n. The 11 plus the 3 gives you the 14, and then we're subtracting 3n. That 280, that negative 280, I should say, is T sub n. It's a term value. So negative 280 equals 14 minus 3n. It really is just a matter of solving this for n now. I'm going to move the 3n over where it becomes positive, which pleases me. I'm going to add the 280 to both sides. So I end up with 3n is equal to 294. And that means I have to divide 294 by 3. Been a long day. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but I don't want to say what it is and be wrong. 294 divided by 3. 294 divided by 3 gives me 98. So since you're getting n is equal to 98, that means that this number is 98 that gives you negative 280, and that means that there are 98 terms, which means that's the answer to this question. If you do the same thing over here, the first term is 14. The common difference is negative 3. In fact, everybody, it's the exact same sequence as the other version of the quiz, except I've got an extra term before the 11. That means when I put those parameters into this formula here, I'm going to get T sub n equals 14 plus n minus 1 times negative 3. And when you simplify that, you're going to end up with T sub n equals 17 minus 3n this time. Because I guess I'll show this to you. I shouldn't be so lazy. You've got 14, and we need to multiply this negative 3 in. And that will give us negative 3n plus 3. And that's where the 17 minus 3n comes from. Again, we're trying to find out when Tn is negative 280. So you solve this equation now. 3n equals 17 plus 280. That means 3n equals 297. And when you divide both sides by 3, you're going to get 99. So negative 280 is the 99th term for that version of the exam. One final question. What is the value of T4? Well, first of all, some of you, I think, when you did these questions, and I'll do the version on the left first, you didn't go slow enough and you didn't think carefully enough. In order to go from 7 to 62 in this list, this is what has to happen. You need to add a common difference and another common difference and another common difference and another common difference and another common difference. You have to add a total of 5 common differences to 62. Pardon me. You have to add a total of 5 common differences to 7 to get 62. Over here, you have to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 common differences to 7 to get 52. Well, solving either of these equations is like stealing candy from a baby. It's pretty simple. Subtract 7 from both sides and you get 55. Divide both sides by the coefficient of d, which is 5, and you'll get d equals 11. Over here, 5d will be equal to 45 when we subtract 7, and d will be equal to 9. The fourth term, when you look carefully at the list, the fourth term, this is the first term, second, third, fourth. That's the term you want to find. First term, second, third, fourth term. That's the term you want to find. I don't think you need to worry about using a formula here. If we look at the version on the left, if the common difference is 11, then if I add 11 to 17, that gives me 18. If I add 11 to 18, that gives me 29. If I add 11 to 29, that gives me 40. The answer to this question is the fourth term is 40. And for the version on the right, if I take the first term, which is 7, and add 9, I get 16. If I add 9 to 16, I get 25. If I add 9 to 25, I get 34. So the correct answer for the second version is the fourth term is 34. You can certainly double check something here. Going back to the version on the left, if I add the common difference of 11 to 40, that gives me 51. If I add 11 to 51, it should give me 62, and it does. For the one on the right, if I take 34 and add 9, which is the common difference, that takes me to 43. If I add 9 to 43, that does give me 52. So again, it clocks. It's correct. So that's how you would do all of those questions on the quiz. I hope that helps. We'll talk to you later.